How are you doing, green industry business leaders? This is episode number 3 of the Green Industry Profits Podcast, where we talk about how green industry companies can grow in a profitable way. In today's episode, we had a conversation with Joe Sander of Lawn Scapes. We dive into his initial acquisition, adding on additional services, his sales strategy, his favorite metrics to track, and much more. And before we dive into this episode, just a quick note that this podcast is brought to you by Cycle CPA, a remote accounting firm that works specifically with green industry businesses. For more information, go to cyclecpa.com. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, everyone. So, looking forward to today's episode. We have Joe Sander here with Lawn Scapes. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Absolutely, Joe. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So, yeah, really looking forward to this episode. But before we kind of dive into things, Joe, can you give us just an overview of maybe how you got into the industry?
Sure. I started working for another landscape company out of high school, and went away to college my first year, transferred back to a local university. And I was one of those kids, youngest of 5, where my dad said, send us to private school, and college was on us. So I worked my way through school, paid every penny of it. So landscaping was my avenue to pay for that. Got a marketing degree. Actually finished school at night and worked full time for another landscape company, and just fell in love with the industry, making things, working with my hands, walking away from a project proud of what we did and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah.
Very nice. And now, when you had, I guess, do you mind going through just the aspect of, starting the company, and kind of
Sure.
what were some considerations around that?
Yeah, so I worked for a larger company, as I mentioned, and was helping this company grow and do some things at the age of 26, and finished my degree. It took me a little while longer because I paid for it myself and went at night. But I quickly realized if I was going to make my mark in this local industry here, or doing anything special, I was going to have to do it on my own. So was very close to starting a company with a landscape architect here in town, and the opportunity came about to buy Lawn Scapes. It was a residential mowing company. And my whole background is in design, build, construction, planting, turf, and all that. So I bought it with the idea that I'd have some recurring revenue, and over time would be able to flip the company into what I wanted it to look like. And that's pretty much what we've done.
Very nice. And wow, so that's pretty interesting. Not even necessarily looking to get into maybe additional residential mowing, but did some of those customers end up, I guess, turning into some of those customers that were going to utilize some of the services that you want to offer, or was it more of just some of those additional customers since you already had the name of the community?
Yeah, I mean, totally. The initial concept was to grow the 500 or so thousand that I bought, and expand with, the additional services that we could now offer. And it's kind of flipped to, a couple million the other way, and offering services the other way. So the design build thing is kind of starting things now, versus mowing started everything probably 7, 8, 10 years ago. And now we've kind of been rebranded into a design build firm that also offers maintenance. So, which is kind of the goal from the onset. I didn't buy or start a company to run mowers and things like that. We don't mind having it as a small percentage of our business, to service full service clients, but it wasn't really our intent to have a huge mowing division.
Absolutely. And I guess kind of going back to the acquisition, what did that look like? When you purchased the company, and I guess any details that you could share, whatever you're comfortable with sharing in regard to maybe how that was structured, or maybe even what you would recommend, for anyone
Sure.
out there looking to start that way.
Yeah, so 23, 24 years ago, it was way different. There wasn't really a term EBITDA back then. Um, but I'm the youngest of five. My oldest brother, his best friend who grew up at our house when we were kids, was a pretty big commercial banking guy here in town, and has moved on to bigger and better things. But the first thing I did, I contacted him and he walked me through the whole thing, uh, helped me with the purchase price, the financing, um, the whole thing. So yeah, without him, I don't know if I'd be sitting here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, and it's great to have those connections, which can really help to fast forward things, right? With certain
Yeah.
things that you want to do with the company. So that's great. Now, how does the company look now in regard to maybe employee count, revenue size? Like I said, whatever you're comfortable sharing. Also, maybe just service mix as well.
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned, we're primarily a design build firm. We've almost exclusively gone to H2B labor. The skilled labor that we provide, the first thing I did 10, probably 15, 18 years ago when we got into stone masonry and things like that, I went and found the best stonemason in the city, started subcontracting them, knowing that I would eventually love to hire him. And that's basically what we've done. And now we have not only him, but, a bunch of guys from his hometown and basically family members. So most of our workforce is H2B, about 12 guys. And then we have 3 or 4 additional full-time guys that finish up projects. When these guys cross back on 12/1 or around 12/1, they finish out projects and then start projects in end of February-ish when weather provides. And we have an operations manager, another sales guy, and then a full-time office manager. So about 15 to 18 in that range.
Very nice. Awesome. And how has it been working with the H2B program?
It's a struggle. Um, I don't know any other industry that depends and or provides so much, depends so much on an industry that doesn't have a guarantee. We've already paid for next year's deal and it's not guaranteed. Most times you'll get your guys, but there's not a start date. There's a hopeful start date, and that's all it is hopeful. So as you well know, in a seasonal business already, when you get a shortened season by getting your guys a little bit late, it can really screw things up in a hurry. So, but it's where we're at. We're trying to work on some different ways to address that, but it is what it is at this point, for sure.
Absolutely. And um, yeah, and I know we do work with some other clients that utilize that program, and just kind of some of the it's pretty intensive. So
Yeah.
but we do work with some companies that definitely utilize it well. Now, for as for the company itself, so maybe starting with the tech stack, softwares. I guess, do you mind sharing any softwares that you've kind of used over the years, or whether it's accounting
Sure.
related or maybe just within the operations side?
Yeah. Yeah. We're QuickBooks Online, and always have been. And then we are in I think our 8th season of LMN, and we use every aspect of that. Absolutely love it. It seems very well tailored for a design build firm. But we use every aspect of it and just couldn't be happier with that. And really, has set us up for, I think, kind of some financial success along with Cycle CPA. I mean, you guys have come along at a great time and been wonderful in that aspect. But LMN really makes you, from the start, place your budget and work forward there. So as a CRM, the whole 9 yards, and we've really embraced it and tried to learn every year. So it's been great for our business for sure.
Awesome. And I guess at what capacity does your team utilize it? Um, or have they kind of bought into utilizing Element as well?
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. We've had no pushback. We realize with growth, automation comes. Um, when we had more of a American staff, believe it or not, we had more pushback then. Like this is
Wow.
stupid. Why do we have to clock in? They're monitoring us. They're tracking us. Whereas, quite honestly, our Hispanic staff just you give it to them, show them once they get it, they understand it. We do a thing called 3 o'clock check-in daily that all our foremen provide pictures, updates, where our operations can see for the next day, plan, schedule, structure what the next day looks like. Goes right to the customer portal. The customer can see those same photos and notes. Um, it's been awesome. Yeah, so our team, we really haven't any pushback. It's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and so you had started, years ago in the, when you first acquired the company, right? As you mentioned, residential mowing, and then now you said a lot of your work almost just comes from a lot of that install based work, right? And I guess what method, is it a lot of word of mouth, or how do you basically go about, you know, getting some of those customers?
Sure. It kind of happened by, I don't want to say by chance, but I realized driving by some commercial properties, I would see the same job trailers on every job. The same electrician, same HVAC guy, the same, blacktop guy would come in at the end. And I realized in my market what I was trying to achieve in the residential side, high-end builders, high-end general contractors, of course, high-end architects, landscape architects. If they were producing the work we wanted to do, that's where I needed to be. So that's where we really focused on, and it's all relationship, whether it's a client or a vendor or the architect. People want to work with people they want to work with, right? So we work really hard to keep those relationships strong and just build on them and be a part of the team. And as we bring in new suppliers and things like that, they're on the team. They're just not giving us product; they're on our team. So really cementing a team across the board, start to finish. Designers, architects, you name it, interior designers. If it's in the realm of what we want to do, that's where we want to be. That's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to go after.
No, that's fantastic.
So
It's
concerted
yeah,
effort for sure.
it's great to have those connections. Now, how much of the work do you sub out right now?
Sure. Every project's different. It all depends, but we'll probably sub, I don't know, 400 to 500,000 probably out of a $2.5 million budget. Um, every project we generally work on has gas, electric, some sort of framing or GC work that we're just not 100% up to speed to do. We do some stuff ourselves. Large amounts of concrete, we sub that out. We do a lot of concrete ourselves that we'll cover up with stone and things like that. But any finished concrete, we'll sub that out. So we try to put the specialists in their fields, and we'll support that and do what we can do. So for sure.
Okay.
Then of course pools. We're not doing pools yet. May happen down the road, but those can be a chunk as well. So
Very nice. Yeah, no, having those specialists with some of those items, especially, when it comes to, just some of the struggles companies have with maintaining internal labor, throughout the year. Um, if there's some of those times where you run into those things where some of the specialty skills are involved, it's we've seen companies be pretty successful being able to sub some of that out. Now, listen, Joe, it's one thing being able to run a company for a couple of years, but you've surpassed that, very profitable as well. And I guess, when it comes to things that you look at, in regard to maintaining profitability, do you have any favorite metrics that you like to look at and goals for the company in regard to maybe if it's net profit or gross margin or maybe a total amount of revenue that a crew should bring in, or daily, weekly. I guess is there anything that you kind of look at throughout the year?
Yeah, absolutely. And working with Cycle CPA has certainly got us a heck of a lot closer and opened our eyes to a lot of those things. We love working with you folks for sure. We have our quarterly meetings with Ian, who is awesome. Can't say enough good things about him. And the way you guys have structured it is a way I can understand. As you guys have worked all around the country, a lot of landscapers. Generally speaking, we get into this because we love to build things with our hands and get out in the field
Sure.
and do things. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I haven't seen a whole lot of guys or gals that are business first and construction or landscape second. It tends to go the other way,
Yeah.
which is probably pretty normal, but your benchmarks, all the stuff you provide to us in just an easy, well-written document that's given to us and explained to us. I've never had that. And since working with you all the last 3 or 4 years, it's been huge. So we commend you folks for that for sure. But also LMN, I approve every budget or every estimate that goes out, and we look at revenue per hour without a doubt. Obviously, gross profit's important, net profit's important, and we negotiate on that, not our hours. Before we had LMN, we would negotiate just on price.
Yeah.
And, you'd finish a project and wonder why you lost money. I mean, you can't give away hours, you can't give away stuff without knowing where it's coming from. And LMN does an awesome job of showing that as well. So that's been great. And our team understands it now. If we're going to work for less, it's going to be for a little less profit. It's not going to be, hey, instead of 100 hours, you have 80 hours. We're not going to do that to our guys. It's not fair. We know what it takes to do a project and do it right.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the only thing we have to go off of is our name. So we're not going to cut things or shortcut things or anything like that. So yeah, it's the other way.
Awesome. Yeah. Revenue per hour is a is a great metric to track, and Element definitely helps to facilitate that. Now, being at I know you had mentioned, your team is around 18 right now, I guess. When you're doing budgeting, and when you're thinking about, the goals for the year, or, however you approach that, do you involve the team with any of that, or do you take most of that on and then kind of direct them in regard to maybe the work that needs to be done and stuff like that? I guess how involved do you have the team in some of that stuff?
Sure. That's a great question because sometimes my office is upstairs. We build offices inside our shop here, and you sit up here alone a lot, and you think and
Yeah.
you scheme and plan and you do all this stuff, and at the end of the day, it really shouldn't be that way. In my opinion, we've done our best work, our best goals, our best budgets, our best planning when we've involved our team. I like to feel like I've been through a lot, but so have they. And when you collaborate and mix things, I think that's when the best results come. So to answer your question, we'll talk about it. We'll set goals, and then we'll come back a day or 2 or 3 days later or whatever. We meet weekly as a management team, and we can bring in some field managers, things like that, on a lot of stuff. On some of these big complex projects, we involve them on hours and things like that now. And you're much better off. The more people you involve, the better results you're going to have for sure. So
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great, because sometimes, like you said, it could be easy to just kind of stay in your office and try to keep everything and try to think about all the solutions yourself, and then think of, okay, why is my team maybe not taking ownership of this, or why did they go over hours for this job? But maybe it was
right,
because it was never communicated to them in the first
right.
place, right? So it's kind of, I thought that was a great point, Joe. And there's a lot of people listening that maybe have a few employees, or maybe more in the initial stages. I guess for those that kind of look at your company as kind of that end goal, um, how was that journey, Joe, when it comes to you know acquiring the company, but then kind of even growing it from there. I guess because I know that there's definitely some inflection points of, okay, maybe before you didn't have an office manager, or maybe you didn't have, certain people in place, if you can kind of give us what that story looked like as you grew.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean it's scary, right? I mean, you get into this, and I mean we're so equipment heavy, we're so employee driven, labor driven. I mean, you've got all these obstacles, and then you've got weather and all these things, and then I'm growing, and I can grow faster if I bring somebody else in, and there's just a lot of obstacles out there. That's why I think we're sitting here today. I mean, the success we've had has been leaning on folks like Cycle CPA, really diving into LMN. The earlier you can do those things, I think the better off you are. With the internet and social media now, I think it's easier to do that. 20, 25 years ago, it was the school of hard knocks, man. You learned when you failed. I mean, and those stick with you the most, and they certainly happen still today, but you certainly learn the most when you failed. But we joined a green industry peer group 2 or 3 years ago, Green Industry Masterminds. These guys are awesome. They challenge you, hold you accountable, but you have to push yourself. The biggest driver in your company is always going to be you. No matter how you push things out, and no matter how you grow your staff, no matter how you grow your people, the biggest driver in your company, at least for me, is always generally sitting in my seat. That doesn't mean I have to do everything, but it means I have to push that accountability, do half-year review, what's working, what's not. Look at the second quarter metrics that you folks have provided to us. It means a lot to me, but if I don't get it through the next 2 or 3 people, if those next 2 or 3 people don't get it through to the 12 or 15, 18 people in the field, it stops, right? So you got to keep that pushing all the way to the end. So
Yeah. Oh, great. Great
it's
stuff, Joe.
different. And I'm sure in 10 years, we'll be talking about something else, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I know that this is something also not probably talked about a lot. And when it comes to the administrative side of things, I know you had mentioned office manager. I guess how do you, along with managing everything in the field, right? What has been your approach over the years in regard to really dialing into the administrative aspects of the company?
Yeah, sure. So we have I feel fortunate at our size. We've had a full-time office manager for probably 15 years or so. I lean pretty heavily on her, and administratively, she handles a lot of things. When she gets bogged down, when we finish this, I've got to help her do a couple things. I've got to push sometimes to get things across the end line,
Yeah,
which is fine. Just like you with an operations guy, right? Hey, we're short on hours. We're coming to the close. We only have this left. All right, let's get a plan. Let's get it together. Let's do this. Same thing happens inside. For a long time, I just thought, I'm not mechanically inclined. I hire a mechanic. I'm not going to lean over their shoulder and tell them how to change the oil, right? I thought the same thing was true in my office, but it can't be any further from the truth. I mean, if you need to stay involved. At the end of the day, it's your business, even though we're a team, we do all this stuff, but yeah, I mean, you got to push things across the line a lot of time. It's fine. That's what I'm here for. So I
yeah.
don't mind doing it all.
I thought that was a great point. It's kind of comparing it to the operations in the field. And I think a lot of times that's the job of the owner or leadership. Is to help them. Help everyone move in the right direction, and in a somewhat timely manner too. So again, really kind of driving that through. Um, no, that's awesome stuff, Joe. Any other points you'd like to leave with the community in regard to maybe what kind of has helped you grow in a profitable way, or just anything in general?
Sure. I'm a huge believer in we're better together. So just this right here, I don't make a whole lot of time for social media or podcasts. It's just not where I'm at in my life. I'm busy, and I still have a daughter in sports and that sort of thing. She's going to college next year playing. So that eats up a lot of my time when I'm not working, but we can learn so much from each other. what works, what doesn't work. Get involved in peer groups. Like I mentioned, green industry masterminds, they've been awesome. Accountability, you folks, green industry stuff specific. We've ran through 4 or 5 local accountants with little to no luck. They just throw in numbers and give you back numbers. Cycle CPA they're green industry specific. They're going to talk to you about benchmarks, what's working, what's not, and I love it. I mean, it's what we've needed for a long time. I've recommended you guys to everybody I know, because I think if we're all up here, we're all going to bring each other up, right? So we're better together for sure.
Thank you, Joe. No, I appreciate those kind words there. And I think it's great to have people like you in the industry, right? That are doing things the right way. Very and kind of willing to kind of help others, and hop on podcasts like this so that others can kind of learn from your experience. And really appreciate you joining me today. And if people want to reach out, I guess what's the best way they can do that?
Sure. My email is joe@lawnscapescincy, LAWNSCAPESCINCY.com. My cell phone is 513-659-6354. Would love to talk to anybody out there that we can help each other for sure.
Thanks a lot, Joe. I enjoyed the conversation here.
Thank you, Joe. You and Carla do an awesome job.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.